before I start, I actually have to thank JCI for the extraordinary organisation of this conference. You've just done an amazing job. It is a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to work with you. We've been so well briefed and so taken care of. I just want to say a huge thank you. Totally professional, seriously. So I have this ridiculous title, Leading Dangerously. And I decided a title that was personal because to me, leadership is personal. And for all of the things that have been said, they are so true, but we lead as a human being and as a person. And we can never leave that at the door. I actually believe labels are for jam jars, and you'll understand why. So I totally agree with you. Titles to me are one of the most limiting things that we can ever have. Leadership is a personal journey that we never stop going on. It's never over. The eureka moments come again and again and again. So why did I choose Leading Dangerously? Well, it's because of this quote I absolutely adore, that still remains on my bathroom mirror, that helps me when I get frightened or I cry in the shower when nobody else can see me, because sometimes leading is incredibly scary, incredibly lonely, and you deal with failure probably more often than you'll deal with success. And this quote is, all men dream, but not equally. There are those of us who dream at night in the dusty recesses of our mind, and we wake in the day and we think, oh, it was just vanity. But there are others of us, men who dream in the day with their eyes wide open, and these are the dangerous men. So why are they dangerous? Because they are not daydreamers. Dangerous dreamers are the ones who dream and do. They are dreamers who do. I believe leadership is about being a dangerous dreamer. So much of leading is based in dreams and desires, and as you said, PJ, often so much of it comes from us as children, from what we want and what we need, the things we didn't get. And that's why self-awareness is so deeply important as you as a leader take on your journey. And Michelle is right. I use that quote about mosquitoes. You don't all have to be Richard Branson to lead. Leading is personal. And everything that you do and every part of who you are affects how you lead. It is personal to me, and that quote, Dangerous Dreamer, is so personal to me because so much of how I began leading, and it is an extraordinary thing that I stand here so many years on in this mad journey that I've taken, that I'm going to talk to you about what I talk now about because I hid it for so long. The dreams that I had when I was 17 years old. For you, it's not so far away from being 17, but for me, it's significant. And when I was 17, I didn't want to be the things that all of you seem to want. I was the odd one out, the Sesame Street kid doing her own thing, hanging upside down with her plaits. I didn't want to be the doctor. I didn't want to be the business person. My father was an entrepreneur. Yes, I knew all of that, but all I wanted was freedom. I wanted to race cars and I wanted to race motorbikes. I just loved the idea of speed. I want to be a cowgirl. I want to be an elephant handler. These are ridiculous dreams, right? But they were mine. And those dreams are the dreams that have helped me become a successful social entrepreneur, which has got nothing to do with what I do now. It was at 17 years old on my birthday, which is the 20th of October. And it's odd because it's quite significant in time, what happened 10 and 12 years ago. On my birthday, my parents, knowing how obsessed I was with wanting to race cars and motorbikes, gave me a driving lesson and promised me they would take me down to the police station to get my provisional driving license after I brought my little sister, who is legally blind, to see the eye specialist. As she had grown up, I had always not made her feel too special because she was kind of blind and I had to make her feel okay. So I would always go and have a fake eye exam. And on my 17th birthday, I had my fake eye exam with my little sister who wants to be a pilot. How sweet. I was clutching my driving lesson and I didn't care about anybody. So anyway, this eye specialist, he actually noticed it was my birthday, and if he hadn't noticed it was my birthday, my life could have been very different. But he saw it was my birthday and he said, so what are you going to do today? You're 17 years old, are you really excited? And I said, I'm so excited, I'm going to learn how to drive. And I whip out this driving lesson like it's the best gold ticket you've ever had. And then there's a silence in the room. The one when you know something is horribly wrong. When you wake up in the middle of the night in a dream, when you're standing naked in front of a whole big crowd of people. And he turned to my mother and he said, you haven't told her yet. And she said, even Caroline. And he said, Caroline worse. So on my 17th birthday, I found out I was, and had been since birth, the level of legally blind. I had ocular albinism. I would never drive a car. It's a funny story because how did I get to 17 years old and not know I was a blindo? It's interesting because now I know why nobody wanted to play sports with me, because I was the last person picked to whack a ball on any team, right? I also now know why I always end up in the gents' toilets, even though there's something different about the smell of a gents' toilets. I know why every single one of you in this audience, including you boys back here, you look like George Clooney. I know when I want to look beautiful, the facelift is standing 3 feet away from the mirror. But I did not know that then. And the reason why is my parents, when I was 3.5 years old, just about to start school, made a unique decision to bring me up as a sighted child, never to tell me I couldn't see, never to limit me by a label, and they sent me to school with a pair of fake glasses, and I thought I was perfect. It is an extraordinary thing what you can do when you believe you can do something. And can I tell you, all of us can see an awful lot more than you realize. You actually don't need eyes to see. But I thought you did. When I found at 17 that I was blinding, I chose not to tell anybody. I didn't want to be visually impaired. I didn't want not to be perfect. I wanted to be the same. I wanted the same chance as everyone else. So I made a decision to hide it, which I did, very successfully for 11 years. And can I tell you, hiding being visually impaired when you are visually impaired is kind of difficult, but I'm kind of easy because my eyes aren't crossed and I don't have a guide dog or a white stick, but I do now. The white stick is in my bag and I use it to skip queues in airports and to skip queues in buses and to get your sympathy when I want it. You always have to work the weakness, but I didn't then. I was too ashamed. I was vain. I didn't want you to feel sorry for me. So I went through these 11 years of my life going, I studied as an archaeologist. Can you believe how insane that is as a visually impaired person? But anyway, I did all these things. I ended up in business school. If I had more time, I'd tell you the ridiculous story of my life. And I am dying, okay, just dying to be the same and be as successful as anybody else. Success was determined by society. Perfection is determined by society. Acceptance is determined by society. When I was doing my master's in business, I decided that I would register blind but not tell anybody because I wanted the free bus pass, because I wanted beer money. But I never thought about what that actually would mean. And so when I started the application for Accenture, it was 1997, and it's really unusual back then, but it's not legal now. There were 3 little boxes in the bottom of your application form. Are you blind? Are you deaf? Or do you have another disability? Now, can I tell you, who goes into an interview going, I'm really bad at? This box is like saying, I'm really bad at seeing. So do you go in saying I can't see? No. But I had registered blind, so what do? You get creative. The whole application form is in black ink, and I take a grey pencil and I take this little visually impaired box. It's extraordinary that nobody noticed the box was ticked. I get offered a job, the first. Nobody's asked me still yet, can she see? So I went to sign my contract with Accenture. Because I had registered blind, I had a PPS number. Attached to that now is called the blind pension. And as I'm trying to hide the blind pension under the contract, it falls back. And the HR person sees it and she said, oh, this is yours. And I said, no, actually, that's yours. She said, it says blind. And I said, I know, it's very dramatic, don't worry about it. And she says, why does it say blind? And I said, well, because I registered blind and I'm partially sighted. And there was another one of those deathly silences. And she said, what? What do you mean we have a blind person in Accenture? So she runs upstairs and she gets the application form. She comes down and said, why didn't you tell us? And I said, I did. I said, look at the box. Now who's visually impaired? I can't believe you can't see it. She didn't find that funny, and fair enough. But anyway, the whole big drama is I was re-interviewed and they brought me in and that was fine. And I spent 2 years in Accenture, but the deal was they wouldn't tell anybody I couldn't see, and I didn't tell them how badly I couldn't see. It's amazing what you can do. Even in a consulting firm, they didn't cop. So anyway, I'm there with them for 2 years. And because I'm not asking for help, because I'm trying to be perfect, because it's all about trying to fit in, I lose the remaining vision that I have, which is ridiculous. I was 28 years old, and I was terrified. Look how far belief had got me. Hadn't I done well? Every time, no, I'd be positive, jazz hands, and positive girl. My energy had run out and I was really tired trying to be perfect. So I eventually had to go in and come out of the disability closet and say, hello, I'm a blindo. That resulted in me with another eye specialist in March of 2000. And that eye specialist never examined my eyes. He sat me down and he gave out to me about my attitude. He said, grow up. Why are you afraid to be who you really are? Do you love what you do? They're not questions you want to actually be asked. And the worst of all was, he said, I think it's time that you did something different. And I left his office and I cursed when I closed the door and I gave the fingers to the door. And I was devastated. This is not the funny part. This is when my confidence is gone and I have nothing else left. And it's a really stupid thing that a visually impaired person should do something as dangerous as going running along the sea when they're feeling a bit mopey, but I did. And I put my runners on, but it's a run I know so well. I have never fallen, never failed, never dropped, because I thought and believed that I could see. But today or that day, I didn't feel I could do anything. I was a failure. I put my runners on and I'm running along, cursing and giving out and being really bold. And there's a rock that I have missed all my life, and I have never fallen on, ever, because I believed I could see it. But this day I fell on the rock, and I call it Snot Rock. Snot Rock is because I landed on that rock. There was blood, snot, tears, and everything everywhere. It was a very grey, wet Wednesday in March, and I was feeling very sorry for myself. And I was really scared. Failure has an extraordinary capacity to change us, far more than success ever will. Success doesn't change us. Success keeps us going in a way that we can be blind. Failure has a remarkable impact. And I sat on that rock and thought, who the hell am I? What am I ever going to be? Because being successful now, I don't know what that is. And I was really scared. I don't like feeling like that. I've never asked for help before. I've always been brought up to be strong and capable. And as I'm sitting on this rock feeling ridiculously sorry for myself, the doctor's voice kept coming into my head. Are you happy? Do you love what you do? And he had also asked me what I wanted to be when I was little. I hardly could tell him I wanted to race cars and motorbikes. But I did have one idea sitting on that rock. Well, I can't race the cars. Cowgirls are all done, who cares? But I could be an elephant handler. And that is exactly the day that I changed my life. I got off that rock, and 8 months later, I went from management consultant to elephant handler. I had the only blind date of my life in southern India with a little elephant called Kanchi. And she and I would trek 1,000 kilometers across southern India with monkeys and cobras and 6 Indian men and a National Geographic camera following me, and that was it. I sat bareback. I was sick of the word no. I wanted to find out who I really was. It sounds very cliched, but it was extraordinary. In the darkest place that you can ever imagine, when you're between a rock and a hard place, you have 2 choices. Do I fix myself, or do I wait for somebody else? I had a hope to be something. I had that chance. When you come face to face with your own dream and realize you're not watching TV, it's amazing. I can't explain to you what it was like when I put my hand in her trunk and she wrapped her trunk around me. Me and Kanchi became great friends. It was only the very beginning, and when I was given my TYOP award, it was only the beginning of the story. I thought that was the end of that story. Because when I sat on that elephant, I was thinking, why was I so scared to be disabled? Why was I so frightened and vain to not be able to be perfect? The reason is, for me, disability at the time was terrifying. I was terrified of it. And the more when I did that elephant journey, we raised lots of money for Sightsavers International, the media started to ask me questions about disability. And I, tumbling out of the closet of disability, didn't have answers. Why are there 1 billion people in the world that nobody cares about? And why is there 80% unemployment? And why do only 78% of those little girls and boys only get an education? Why is disability invisible? And I couldn't get off that elephant and go back to Accenture. They were like, come on back. She's raised lots of money. She's a good salesperson. But I couldn't go back. because I saw a problem. And for some reason, it was so deeply personal that I couldn't leave and go back. I wanted to be part of fixing it. And I didn't know how, but I definitely knew one thing. I knew the business world. And I knew that such a substantial catalyst for change was in you business people. We see what Branson's done with the environment. We see what Gates is doing with non-communicable diseases. Why was disability in business so hugely a part? And the reason is it's because how disability is understood, because it's always so medically model based. We forget there's a human being, just a person like anybody else with dreams and potential and ability and personalities. But disability has been so awfully framed in the negative, not because you're bad or I'm bad, it's just because how it was. If you even think of the James Bond movies, every criminal has a disability. Go see Skyfall, he's a nut job. Like even the Da Vinci Code. Da Vinci Code, Cyrus is an albino, I'm albino. Our passive acceptance of disability is just what we learn. So I so wanted to change that. If I could change the way we think about disability, then society would become more inclusive. And who are the greatest catalysts for change? It was business. So if we could change the way business think about disability and behave around disability, society would naturally follow. I had no idea how to do that. But I did remember something. My father, as an entrepreneur, took his blind-o daughter into his factory. He had a big silkscreen factory and had me at 14 years old doing quality assurance. Do you know what that is? Mental. But I used to understand about quality assurance, and he was the very first manufacturing company in the world to get the ISO 9000. And he was invisible, literally gone for that year he was trying to get it. And I remember saying to him, why, Dad, is ISO such a big thing? He said, because it will make me better than my competitors. It's about quality. So I thought, well, if I'm going to engage business, I need to use their language, their methodologies, and their thinking. So what we decided we'd do is create a whole language around disability that business would get, saying there are 1 billion people in the world. That's a market size of China. That's a 9 trillion disposable income you should be using. And convert this into business language. And then how could we incentivize business to engage with this market? Well, we could give them the tools. So we'll create the first ISO 9000 tool, which we did, and it was great, and I was so excited. And it was just after the Special Olympics. Definitely, I can sell it. And business just looked at me and went, absolutely not. So let's go back and invent again. I thought, okay, how can I incentivize business to use this tool? Well, what do business love? Well, business love PR and media and leadership. And so we created this big thing called the Ability Awards around this extraordinary tool. It's total manipulation is exactly what we did. Totally manipulating. It was win-win. I give to you, you give to me. And we made all the things that you love in business happen. This business award, it wasn't a disability program. This business award program was launched in 2004. I have just come back from Spain, where we've just finished the second Ability Awards in Spain, which was headed up by the Queen of Spain, which had just under 500 entries from business. We are now signed up for the Netherlands, the UK, Germany, Singapore, Sweden. I have no idea how to run an international business. I have no idea at all. But when I came to Dennis O'Brien, because he was the chair of the first Ability Awards in 2004, and I had this big idea and I was selling it and giving it loads, he was going, Casey, ain't gonna work. And I'm like, why? Because Casey, it just ain't gonna work. 8 months later, Dennis O'Brien, chair of the O2 Ability Awards, was handing out the prizes. And he took me aside and he goes, I'm really sorry I made you feel so shit. And I said, I'm really glad you did. Because you made me want to prove you wrong. A lot of our success has been nearly, well, bring it on if you say no. In the last 10 years, I can't tell you the countless numbers of people that I have come across, the extraordinary things that I have managed to do when I took off the perfect eyes. It's amazing when I accepted I was blind, I could see way more than I have. We are the first social Irish franchise in the world. We are now advisors to President Clinton and to the World Economic Forum in the past. We have put disability on the map where nobody ever has. Our little country, Ireland, and our businesses did that. Do you have any idea that we are creating a business out of the most extraordinary uncomfortable topic in the world, but driving social change for 1 billion people? There are 5 things I could tell you about leadership that I want you to remember, like the worm in the blizzard. And one of them is the duck. I'm going to beat you, boys. Remember the duck. Authentic self. This is personal. I totally believe every single one of you has way more potential than you even know. I don't want you to have a snot rock, but if they come, deal with it. The duck is, you did this today when you closed your front door. You closed it and you put on your duck suit. And that's the fake one we all do. I'm calm on the outside, but I'm paddling like shit underneath to survive. We all do it. And enough duck is good. We need a bit of duck, but don't wear it like pajamas. You have to be your real self. To lead authentically is to lead powerfully. You don't have to be like somebody else. You have to be you. I am more successful being me than I was being somebody else. I have no idea who I was even trying to be. But I'm now me. And it's okay to stand up and say I need help going to the toilet, or actually hugging the wrong person. And when they say, do you remember me? I say no, because I can't see you anymore. It's really nice just to live in my own skin. The second thing is, please do not compare yourself to anybody else. You cannot be Joe or Mary. It's a waste of time. And I remember when I got the TOYP award or whatever it was in Las Vegas, that's what it was, Lucy Liu was sitting beside me. I'm like, what am I doing? Then somebody who had come up with some recovery gene for cancer. And there were these extraordinary 9 other people. We hadn't even started the Ability Awards. Were these people insane? And I always remember Lucy Liu coming over to me and going, I know you're sitting here thinking you shouldn't be here. So am I. We can never understand what the other person feels or thinks. The only one we can be is our own selves. And leading for each of us is a different thing. The third thing that I just want to tell you is it's about self-awareness. Sometimes you need to know to let go. Leading a startup, leading to continue, leading to end require different skills. I am a really bad CEO. I'm a brilliant founder. I think I'm a good visionary, but I'm a shit CEO. And the really good thing about that is the sooner you know it, you go find the best person around you. It's hard to let go of something you loved. And in May of this year, I stepped down as the CEO of my company, which is now 2 companies, has never been more successful. And to step away from something like that is painful. But it's so liberating, because I want our work to survive. A company should not be about an individual. It should be about your work. And when we found our new CEO, can I tell you, we're so different. He's like really quiet and I'm really loud, and it works really well. He will lead the company in, and I will stay in being its visionary and its founder and advisor to it. I didn't even take a seat on the board. Sometimes you need to lead by letting go. And particularly if you're a founder, it's incredibly, incredibly important. The other thing about leading is who you're hanging out with. That's why JCI is so important. Be around the people who get you, not the people who shove chocolate face in your face just when you start a diet. Be around the people when you've got an idea that go, you're the bomb. Because it's really important. Because can you imagine a little girl with the idea of being an elephant handler who is a management consultant coming up to her management consulting partners and going, I want to be an elephant handler, will you give me 6 months off? And he said, yeah, I will. We all need to have people believe in us. And the last thing about leading for me is if you do not love what you do, if you do not believe so absolutely in what you do, you cannot make it happen. It's a term that I've learned to know. Be scrupulous. Have any of you heard that word before? Be scrupulous. And this is the best description of scrupulous I can give you. I am rigorously devoted to my mission. Every elevator ride I take is a pitch given. Every meal shared is a story told. A rooftop is a stage. A park is an audience. and I will sing until my voice is gone. I believe wholeheartedly that we are part of changing the world for 1 billion people with disability. If I didn't, I shouldn't be here. I have no right to stand in front of you. And lastly, I want to tell you a story about the person who never gave up. I did get to drive a car. To lead, you have to skin cats in many different ways. I did a trip called Around the World in 80 Ways in 2002 with 2 other people with disabilities. Miles was completely blind, and Mike McKenzie had lost his legs in Bosnia and was just paralysed from under the chest down. We were asked to go around the world using 80 modes of transport, 3 people with disabilities, and we were given 2 helpers. One manager from Rolls-Royce who turned out to be half deaf, and a cameraman with a glass eye. So we get to Malaysia, and everybody knows the girl wants to drive the car. So can you imagine my very first driving lesson? The Malaysian media opened up the Malaysian Grand Prix track, Sepang Grand Prix track, to let the girl drive the car. And they decide against the first blind against blind race. Miles with a deaf guy in one car, and me with Mike McKenzie, the guy with no legs. He felt if he'd crashed, he'd nothing else to lose. So here we are on the start line. And I want you as business people to listen to this, because this is so ridiculous, but listen. The blind against blind race, the Malaysian media are completely around, and here we go. The race is to begin, and whew, the flag goes down. What is wrong with that picture? We're blind. Let's remember the obvious is always under our nose, the greatest opportunities under our nose, and would you listen to your consumer? Anyway, the horn beeps, because they cop on the people can't see what we're doing, and we take off. 193 kilometers an hour, 5 laps around the Malaysian Grand Prix track was my first driving lesson. If you want to lead, remember to manage the failure in between. And pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and don't be Irish about it. Failure is good. And if you hang around long enough, you'll get what you want at the other side. Thank you very much.